Consider the tale of 4 school districts in Texas: Ysleta, Wiley, Laredo, La Pryor. Very different districts from one another, and what they have been able to achieve. You see the state average for our students from poverty, our students, the middle-income students as well. And each of these school districts is massively outperforming those averages for their kids. So I've learned a lot, and I thought together I would learn a little bit more from the 4 leaders most responsible for this. In Ysleta, Xavier De La Torre is a very skilled superintendent leading them. Wiley ISD, David Vinson, who also serves incidentally on our reading advisory board at the state to support our reading academies. Laredo ISD, Sylvia Rios, and La Pryor ISD, Matthew McCaslett. If y'all would join me, and let's continue the discussion on how we achieve great things for kids in Texas. Let's give these folks a huge round of applause for these outcomes. And thank you very much. Let's bring that graph back up on the stage, because, I mean, they have been crushing it for our kids. And I want to know how. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for joining me for this discussion. So you guys can see in front of you your results. This is, again, just focused on the percentage of students that are meeting grade level in 3rd grade. And everybody's outperforming the state. So to what do you attribute your level of success thus far? Just when you reflect on the sort of big levers that you've been focused on as a superintendent, what changes, what practices do you think are most compelling? Xavier, I'm interested in your reflections.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and so much of what you've described resonates with me, except for the fact that I came from California, so I feel a little beat up. Uh-oh. After arriving from California 5 years ago, one of the first things that the board asked, let's have an inclusive, comprehensive process and develop a strategic action plan with an emphasis on literacy and language, because of the number of students who come to us who are either non-English proficient or limited English proficient. So we really have to work on 2 levels. One is obviously English language acquisition, and the other one is academic language acquisition, and so much of that starts with literacy. So my approach has always been, and it continues to be as part of the strategic action plan, to really promote aggressively, almost prescriptively, a balanced literacy framework with almost a myopic, I would say, emphasis on effective reading strategies. And the best way to do that was to arrive to a system that had really relied on site-based decision-making and decentralize that. And so one of the first major investments I made was I assigned an instructional coach with an expertise in reading to all 38 elementary schools, coupled that person with an individual that we refer to as an interventionist. The interventionist is trained in the Wilson method and primarily works with students who have been diagnosed with dyslexia. Yeah. But when the caseload isn't there, the expectation is that they work with any child that is struggling with reading, and that they support the teachers in the 4 corners of the classroom in that regard. The instructional coach is really a way for us to take the training and the professional development that we provide at the central office and during the summer out to the schools, rather than the old model, which was whenever a teacher thought they needed assistance in the area of literacy, you'd mobilize people out to that school. I'd rather they be part of that faculty, part of that instructional leadership team at every school. There are 2 other positions that also support their work, and that's an instructional coach that works with mathematics and science, and then a technology coach that teaches our teachers how to leverage technology as a way to differentiate instruction in the classroom. But if you really adhere to it in a very prescriptive way, and the expectation is that these instructional coaches going out to the schools are serving as measures or a barometer of how the program is being delivered with fidelity, Couple that with our commitment to instructional rounds out of Harvard, where we get together with principals and assistant principals and invite teachers and move around school systems to make sure that the level of rigor that we expect for our students is present. And we go through the sort of the progression. It's, you know, word study, moves to reading. We employ guided reading when it's appropriate. We use methods to measure. One of the methods that we use is the state interim assessments that really give us a good indication of whether or not we're moving that needle on behalf of all students, not just one group of students. And we really make it about being excellent by design, not by accident. So it is a little prescriptive. It takes people, I think, time to really wrap their head around how formal we approach it, but it is a very formal process, and the instructional coaches who are out there working with our teachers, the interventionists who are working with our kids, the materials that, the instructional materials and the time that we make available to teachers so that they develop lesson plans that adhere to the standards that the state has set and that we work hard to attain on behalf of our students really is what drives our literacy program, and it's been 5 years now. Everyone's bought into it, and for the last 5 years, the thing that I'm most proud of is, and you alluded to thousands of students, but you're absolutely right, a percentage point, 2 percentage points, in some cases 5 percentage points in growth could mean as many as 1,000 more students are meeting standards and eventually going to master standards than the number that welcomed me back in 2014. And that's something that I think, you know, makes the work very rewarding and fulfilling.
Yeah. It sounds like what you've described is analogous to the offense that David referred to earlier. So you're making a significant investment from the center in coaching capacity, deploying that equitably so that the resources available in every school, and using that to grow the capacity of your entire team collectively.
And one of the things we did early that kind of caught people off guard, because people tend to get caught up in just the state-mandated assessments. So oftentimes, please don't do
that.
That
never happens, right? People don't get caught up in
They
state-mandated
redirect the marginal teacher, the mediocre teacher, into one of those grade levels, pre-K, K1, 2, that aren't being tested as a way to sort of circumvent the consequences. And you are doing a huge disservice to yourself. So we've had this informal policy in place for some time. We don't move marginal teachers into the lower grades. If anything, we move marginal teachers out of the lower grades into the tested grades to try and promote some accountability, not to hide them. Absolutely. Because you have to invest up front and you have to invest heavy. When people say, what are you doing about high school reform? I'm providing better elementary school students, right? Because that's when it starts. And then because we're a school district that at one time used to have 56,000 students, we have about 42,000 students now. We have a lot of capacity. That means a lot of empty buildings, right? And so when we were given the resources to go full day, it took us all of 2.5 months to go ahead and introduce 24 brand new full day pre-K programs. I explained to them he's making a huge investment on the front end, and what I would expect to hear when I meet with my kindergarten teachers here at the end of this year is that the student that they're receiving from these pre-K programs is significantly better prepared than the student they used to receive when we had or limited half-day programs. That's the investment, and if they're not different, then we have a problem. And then you compound that with the work we're going to do around the academies, and we're headed in a great direction.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear.